Hello, everybody. My name is Teddy Jones. I am here with my wonderful wife, Cece, and she is my interview subject for my UI UX project. Cece, go ahead and give us a little background on why you're an expert.
Yeah, so just some hobbies. I like movies and trinkets and events like that, but also Teddy got me into like doing Beyblade events and just getting into playing at home and stuff. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So basically what we're going to be doing here today is we have a series of questions, about 10 in total. Each question might have multiple parts to it, but it's going to be broken down into one of three topics or three sections. So section A is going to be about your point of view, generally about like the hobbies, etc. The second section is going to be about, any like competitors that might exist already, right? And then
Okay.
the third section is going to be about market trends. So like questions more or less of like where you think like the hobby is going, etc.
Okay.
Um, but for question number one, like I said, it might have multiple parts in it, so we'll go ahead and let me read the question fully first, and then we'll go ahead and get your answer, okay?
Okay.
So think back to the last time you attended a tournament or a local meetup. Can you walk me through exactly how you found out about it and how you planned your trip?
Yeah, so this was actually in Tampa. So we live in like the Orlando area, so we had to drive out like an hour and a half, hour 50, I don't even know exactly, but over an hour for sure. How I found out about it though was through, I think, Discord. Um, yeah, there was a Discord post about it, that there was going to be a special event this one day. So this was actually only just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And then we just, I told you about it, and then we just went from there.
It was an event. I'll tell you guys that. All right, for second question. What is the most annoying part that you can think of about trying to find a place for your hobby? Is it wrong times, far distances, etc.?
I'd say the biggest issue for me is the distance. Because even when there are events in Orlando, it's like on the other side of Orlando. So and even when there even is anything in this area, I mean I've noticed a lot of the big events are like all the way in California, things like that. So it's just a lot of like here and there. And I would also say just like timing too. I think things get posted a lot close to when the events happen, so you don't have a lot of time to plan, especially if you're trying to go far. So,
Okay. Okay. That's understandable. Now on to the next question. Have you ever decided not to go to an event because you were worried about whether or not the event was legitimate?
I don't know that I'd say if it wasn't legitimate, but there was a convention, I want to say like a year or so ago that came out here, and I feel like it was more family focused. Not saying, kids, obviously kids play Beyblade, but there is like a competitive scene between adults. So I feel like the convention that I was looking at was going to be geared more toward just like a random person just coming up and playing at the convention, and it wasn't really geared more towards like a competitive style. So I wouldn't say it wasn't legitimate, but I would say it just feels like we need more. Um, we need more for the adult scene, I guess. So I know that's not really answering your question, but that's just another example of like something I could think of that was along those
So
lines.
that actually does it. I have another question that will follow up on that shortly.
Okay.
But that is something that is a question we will cover. Okay, so we're on question number four. Uh, when you are actually at a venue or an event that is holding or taking place, factoring in carrying any equipment, how do you usually check your phone? Do you have both hands free, or is it more you're trying to juggle it between carrying a bunch of things?
So yeah, I mean you got to carry your stadiums, which I that's a so annoying to do anyway because they're just so bulky. But like also you have to have your little matchbox box that keeps all of them in there. So that's a little heavy sometimes depending if you just want to bring like your whole collection or just a few. So it really depends. But going between that and your phone can be very difficult. So it's good to have like somebody with you, like you and I can switch off. But when you're going alone or something, yeah, you definitely are trying to like juggle a million things. So
Okay, okay, perfect. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that.
yeah, bring a friend.
There might be a feature that I'm looking at that will address that concern. Now we're gonna go to the second section. Now we're gonna talk about a little bit about the competition
Okay.
for our Beyblade application that I'm working on. Okay.
Hmm.
Now you had mentioned before using platforms like Discord, and I think you mentioned Instagram. What is one thing about either of those platforms that they do very poorly when viewed on a mobile device?
Hmm.
Keep in mind
That's
this is in relation to the hobby of Beyblade.
yeah. I'm just thinking like I guess in general, it wouldn't even necessarily be just specifically on a mobile device, but like I mentioned before, I feel like they don't tell people things in time. Also like sometimes the graphics like aren't as good on a phone as they would be like on a full-on website. So that's something I would say for sure. And then just like UI in general sometimes like links and sometimes are broken, things like that. So just other than that, I mean, that's a few things I could think of.
So would you say you would nail it down to like the overall like layout and like navigation?
Yeah, I'd say they could be a little bit more organized
Okay.
and consistent, I guess.
So that follows into my next question. If you could wave a magic wand, what's one thing you would change about how Discord and Instagram handles event listings?
Yeah, so I would make sure that, you know, whoever's hosting has an account on both platforms. That's majorly a thing just with social media in general because I am going to school for that, so I know a bit about that marketing. So any brand or any company should have an account or excuse me an account on multiple platforms because you have different audiences on different platforms, right? And you also want to keep your posts consistent. You might not want to have the posts look exactly the same on one platform as it does on the other, but you do want to have those fine details that are accurate and that match. So that would be like the one major thing I think I'd change is just kind of like have these brands and these companies be a little bit more organized throughout their different platforms.
Okay. And this question here is specifically about Discord, okay?
Hmm.
Do you keep notifications turned on for your hobby Discord servers?
Yeah, actually, specifically, on certain ones, you can actually go in and the different chats within that server. You can actually, I think, like, you know, sometimes there's general chat, and then sometimes there's like posts about events and things. I'm pretty sure, like, I have them to where like certain events I'll get the notifications on, but I won't get the notifications on like the everyday chat. But yeah, for like special things like events and stuff, I try to keep those on.
So just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, you generally have them on for certain things, but you have the rest of them turned off. Can you explain why exactly you have them turned off?
Oh, just because chatter can be too much, but you want to make sure that you at least have the like special because there's like I said, there's different you're in a server, right? But you
Mm.
have different chat or different little topics within your server. So like there's general chat sometimes, there's news and events sometimes, you know, those type of things. So yeah, I always try to keep like my news and events one turned on. The other ones I have them turned off just because it can be too much chatter and can clog up my notifications, I guess if that makes sense.
Would it be safe to say that you get fatigued from them?
Oh, for sure. Overwhelming and tiring for sure.
I personally can. I can say that I keep all notifications off for that reason,
Yeah.
even if it's a hobby that I'm a part of. Uh, okay.
Yeah.
So now we're going on to our third and final section here. We're talking about market trends, okay? Now
Mhm.
this first question I'm going to ask you here is our eighth question. It's kind of a long one. It's a two-part one, okay?
Okay.
Uh, do you feel like Beyblade is currently more geared towards children or adults right now? And how does the current design of Beyblade's app slash websites make you feel about that?
Hmm. I guess it kind of goes with what I was saying earlier, really. I feel like the general public as a whole associates Beyblades with children. I mean, that's just, because they've been around forever. They were around when we grew up. So, like, that is what, you got into it when you were a kid. But, like, now, and I don't know if many people in America, because I'll also bring that up, or at least the United States exactly, understands that there even is an adult competitive league and things like that. So I just feel like the general public thinks it's all about kids, and that's why I mentioned that convention earlier. I think it was just kind of like a family friendly thing. So I'd say as a whole, yeah, it feels more geared toward children, especially with Hasbro, because they're very like they put out kind of cheap products and they kind of gear it towards kids too. And I think also based on like the websites and things like that, yeah, you're gonna assume like it's all like colorful and stuff, of course, and it's still cool and you still see, you know, designs and things like that. But like overall, it's generally based on like focused on kids. I feel, yeah.
Makes sense, makes sense. The next question here I have is related to tournaments
Hmm.
specifically, okay? With the rise of high stake tournaments and the rise of popular streamer events, do you feel like there is a need currently for tools that are more professional versus social, and why?
Do you mean in terms of like the game or in
Well,
terms of
just
like
more in
social
terms
media?
of like if Hasbro came out with an app, right?
Mhm.
Or let's say Takara Tomy came out with an app. Um, would you want it to be more like a social hangout where everybody's like, hey, let's talk about Beyblade, whether it's the manga, the anime, and competitive, or would you want it something to be just dedicated to it? Similar to how League of Legends has the LOL esports website, which is
Mhm.
dedicated specifically to the competitive League of Legends scene.
I feel like you could have both, to be honest. Because again, like there's times where you just want to look up information, right? And then there's
Hmm.
times where you do want to, excuse me, do want to chat and be social. But I do think what would be better would probably be something that's going to be more social, and that's because people connect with people, and like connection really honestly helps with any situation, any kind of thing you're trying to promote. So like especially as you mentioned, like streamers now doing Beyblade tournaments and stuff, like that's really getting the word out there. Like even though a lot of them didn't start with like high grade Beyblades, they just did it for fun. I think a lot of the streamers are learning more about the competitive scene and actually like I believe was it Will Neff I think was actually kind of like learning a little bit more about it last time they did it. And
Yes.
so it's like, it's all about information and education and like how do we get there though? We get there by telling each other about it. And so I think socially would be more important, I guess, at this point. But you always want to have some level of professionalism within your websites or your apps and things like that.
Right, right, to make sure it stays uniform and that you're not getting
Correct.
a million and one different rulings in a million different places. I got you. I got you.
Exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, this is our final question, okay? And it's a big one. So that like always, there are multiple parts to this question, so let me ask it fully first and then we'll get your answer.
Okay.
If there is an app that came out tomorrow that just showed you a simple radar of events. Like think like Pokemon Go type radar, right? You're in the
Hmm.
center and it like pings around you. That shows events in say like a 50-mile radius that says they were verified and safe. Would that change how often you go to events and play at events? Why and why not? Or why or why not, rather?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you again, anytime you have like a verified source or you know of a place that you can like trust that's hosting these kind of events, that's important. So being if there were an app there that actually, made it easier for you to just filter in, like, or not even have to filter, is the way you're explaining it is kind of alerting you already. So, and you could always even put notifications on, right? So like
Or you
whenever
can turn them
there's
off if you want to keep it low in notifications.
yeah, yeah, but I just meant like if this specific app was very like good about like telling you when something was going on or like giving you an alert for when it's going to happen, absolutely. I think that would be a great investment or invention because like I said, it's very difficult to find these events when there's some people talking about it on Discord, but then there's some people talking about it on Instagram, and there's some people on Facebook and Twitter and whatever. So it's like there needs to be that consistency. So if there was one specific app or one specific website everyone could be directed to, and then the social media piggybacked off that website or app, golden. It'd be perfect.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much. That was the last question I have. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.